The perception was that once the fire got put out, that the event was just going to be over with. But obviously there's still levels that need to continue in regards to removing the product to make it safe for the public. Just to address, yesterday's event and how it impacted Deer Park, every community in the area, there's many levels of monitoring. From my perspective as the mayor of Deer Park, everything that can be done to assure public safety is being done. Very extensive and high levels of monitoring, so we know what's going on at any particular moment. There's a tremendous amount of effort being put into the response, not only on the scene, which I was out there yesterday. I was here yesterday evening in some meetings just going over what's going on, and I'm very confident that they're doing the best they can to address this situation. When I leave here in a little bit, I'll be going over to Harris County Management to continue the collaboration that's going on in this local area. I can also tell you that there's been conversations that I've participated in all the way up to the governor's office, and any level of support that we need is being offered and extended, and they're arriving as we speak. So from my perspective as the mayor, I appreciate all the responders that are out here at the scene and those in the region that are supporting this situation, and we are doing the best we can to make it safe and to find some kind of solutions to get to the end of this situation, and so everybody can get back to their life. So with that, I know there's several of them that want to speak, and don't forget to ask everybody to pray. You're going to hear me say that every day, all right? Who's going to speak next?
So, good morning. EPA continues to work closely with our state, county, local response organizations. We've done air monitoring in the air with the Aspect aircraft every day. We haven't had any significant hits of volatile organics or benzene. We continue our on-the-ground air monitoring locations. Since we started on Sunday, we've probably had about 250 different locations downwind of the incident from the start on Sunday. And we've only had 3 detections of volatiles or benzene above 1 part per million. Yesterday I mentioned, hey, I believe it was at 2.8, but actually that was wrong. It was 1.8. So those 3 detections that EPA detected were between 1.5 and 1.8. Outside of that, those were all yesterday. So outside of that, there's been no detections at all for benzene or volatile organic compounds above 1 part per million. We also brought in the trace atmospheric gas analyzer bus. Yesterday he was in downwind in Deer Park all day long. I believe it was probably 8 or 9 hours, just monitoring continuously. And we got no hits for benzene. And once you get done, the bus is actually here conveniently, so you can take some pictures and see the bus itself from the outside. So if you see it on the road, you'll know what we're talking about. ITC, I've seen their data. Since midnight last night, they've had no benzene detections at all. So we're moving in the right direction, and we're continuing to see a stable situation. It's becoming more stable as we go day to day, and we're continuing to work closely with our other federal agencies, Coast Guard, NOAA, and our state, TCEQ, Harris County, Deer Park. They're all part of our EOC, and we're communicating as soon as we get any detections that are of a concern, and disseminate that out to the potentially impacted communities. Thanks.
So good morning. My name is Brent Weber. I'm with ITC. As Alice mentioned, I've been acting as the incident command since Tuesday. We're operating under unified command, and I am partner with our governmental agencies. I am the acting incident commander today, and I'm really here to answer any questions you might have about really our remediation and our recovery efforts. But before we get to the questions, I would like to tell you that this is a very unique situation. It's very complex. There's an unlimited number of variables out in the area that we're dealing with. So first and foremost, our concern is safety of the responders, safety of the employees, and sometimes being safe and being methodical takes a little bit longer to get things done, but it's in the right vein because we want to just keep people safe. So I'll be glad to answer any questions. Yes, ma'am.
Before we go to questions, we're going to do a Spanish interpretation, Lucy.
Thank you. Buenos días a todos. Voy a traducirles un poco lo que dijeron tanto la señora Alice como el señor Weber, el alcalde, por supuesto, y el jefe del comando de este incidente, Brent Weber, también. Primero, quiero comentarles lo que dijo la Agencia de Protección Ambiental. Se sigue trabajando en el monitoreo del ambiente. Se han hecho varias lecturas. Ayer se hicieron 3 que salieron entre 1.5 y 1.8 partes por millar. Y en este momento no se han detectado ningún nivel de benceno, ningún nivel o de un material que sea peligroso para la comunidad. Desde ayer no ha habido detecciones que pudieran indicar algún tipo de peligro salvo estas. En este momento la lectura es 0. El señor alcalde de Deer Park dijo que se ha hecho todo lo necesario para responder a esta emergencia. Él ha asegurado que personalmente ha sido testigo de que todas las acciones que se han tomado han sido las necesarias para responder a esta emergencia y que la seguridad de la población está bien. Además mencionó que está en contacto con la oficina del del gobernador Greg Abbott, y que el mismo gobernador le ha ofrecido las facilidades necesarias para poder enfrentar y ponerle remedio a esta emergencia lo más pronto posible. El señor Weber ha comentado, el jefe de comando de este incidente, ha dicho que si bien se han hecho muchos esfuerzos y que pudieran de alguna manera parecer que han tomado mucho tiempo, se están haciendo las cosas de acuerdo a lo que debe ser. Aun y cuando parezca que toma más tiempo, estamos caminando hacia la dirección correcta.
We'll take questions.
How much high gas is left in the tank now, and how long is the process to transport it supposed to take?
Brent.
So it's very hard to give you an accurate number. We believe it's somewhere around 20,000 barrels, and depending on the actual pump rate that we get, we're probably looking at around 8 to 12 hours to remove the material from the tank. While we do that, it's very critical that we maintain a nice foam layer on top of the product while we pump, because there's going to be a lot of agitation in the tank when we start the pumping. So it's very critical that we continue to add foam on top of that tank as we move that product.
Is the risk for a benzene release highest for the next 8 to 12 hours?
There is a possibility of release of vapors during the pumping because of the agitation, and you possibly losing the foam layer. The foam does help suppress the vapors. So as we move the material, we'll make sure we keep a nice foam layer, but there is an elevated risk of benzene emissions during this time. Next question.
This is for the mayor. We have a lot of residents we've heard from who are kind of thinking of evacuating or leaving the area. So what would you say to the people who are unsure about what to do?
So there's been no scenario that's occurred in the city of Deer Park, which is where my reference point is going to be, where we even considered evacuating the public. But in any scenario of a decision that we do, from the city's perspective, will be in the best interest of the public. To address the concerns that someone might have, they need to follow their instincts. If they're concerned and they feel like that's best with them, that's a decision they need to make. But there's been no scenario that's occurred at any point in time where we've considered evacuating anybody.
Mayor, do you expect more shelter in place now since they're saying that there will be more vapors?
So if you take what he said, in any process of how they're removing the product, if it messes up the foam, there is potential. So I am expecting potentially, whatever you want to make that out to be another occurrence in regards to, if they're doing their job removing the pump, there is a likelihood that it's going to occur again.
I was told Wednesday that someone would get back to me regarding water analysis data from a third-party contractor. No one ever called me or my station. Where are we at with that water analysis from your third-party contractor?
I apologize for us not getting back to you. We talked about it in the meeting this morning, and they're supposed to be getting me some water data that I can post. I will make sure that we get back with you today.
What is taking so long, though? Do you know the answer to that?
Yes, I do know the answer to that. It's that get my words. This incident is a huge incident, and we're all trying to do a lot of things. And our main concern is the health of everyone right now, the air part of it. The Coast Guard is here. We're monitoring the waters. We have boats in the waters. We have booms out. We just have not had the time to go to the next step. So we will, and I will get you some data. So go ahead.
Right, if we don't know the results.
So let me add on to the fact that I alluded to earlier. In every scenario of potential, whatever you're going to recur, especially on the water, it's being monitored. I can assure you. In the city of Deer Park, we're getting our water tested, but these test results take multiple days to get back. We're still waiting on stuff that occurred several days ago. It's taking 3+ days to get results back. But all that's being done locally, regionally. I can assure you that there's people everywhere testing every possible scenario that can be tested to make sure the public safety is first and foremost.
The EPA...
Cause for concern, we just don't know yet because we don't have the data.
In any hypothetical scenario that you might occur, there should be cause of concern. No different than when you get in the car and you leave today, there's a hypothetical cause of concern that you might get into an accident. We're trying to be honest with you in this scenario, is that there is some scenarios of possibility, but everything that can be done to avoid the scenarios is being done.
Can you explain? Could you explain what happened this morning at 4:38? You said that ITC has detected no benzene being released, but one of the monitors listed a 4.3 parts per million release at 4:38 this morning, while the other air monitors nearby, some haven't been updated in more than 24 hours. Which is true? Has there been a release or has there not?
I'm going to see if Adam can
I got a summary, and I looked at their data just before I came out, and they gave me the summary that there's no benzene detected by ITC's air monitoring. We'll have them double check it and get back to you. That's my latest information.
And when it comes to the public's trust, can you understand why it's so difficult for the public to trust what you're saying when the ReadyHarris.org website lists a release of 4.3 ppms, but at the same time you're saying there's no detection, and some of these results haven't been updated either? Sure, I understand the concern. So that's ITC's information. EPA has been doing downwind air monitoring since we started on Sunday, and we haven't had any detections above 1 part per million, except for the 3 that I mentioned. And that's been since Sunday midday up until now. It's been 24 hours a day. Plus we've had the Taga bus downwind. Plus we had the Aspect aircraft that's been flying over. So should we continue pushing people to ReadyHarris.org since it's not being updated, or it might not be as accurate as you guys say it is?
So let me jump in here. So as a mayor, I'm asking the same questions that you are, right? So as was reported yesterday at one of the news conferences, I can confirm there's at least 4 different agencies or different entities independent that are monitoring in all these situations. From the city of Deer Park, we have separate mobile monitoring that's going on. The EPA, as he alluded to, has mobile monitoring source. When anything like that hits the radar, there is second and third levels of monitoring that's occurring at all the time, just to double and triple verify that. I had conversations with the county yesterday about the ReadyHarris.org being slow to update because we were in the process of lifting our shelter in place and had an extended amount of time, 2 to 3 hours, where there was verifiable data from multiple sources of the mobile and levels that the air had cleared out, but it was still showing online on the ReadyHarris.org that it was still showing red. And I questioned, and the county was very responsive, and that's stuff we're working on as we go through this, that I've asked, and I'm going over there this afternoon to work on that to make sure this process is being efficient as possible. Because you need to ask them questions. I'm asking that question, and we're doing our best to answer them.
Talk about the water for a second, this might be for Adam. How many booms have been done in the bayou?
I don't have the number of booms. I know they have absorbent booms that are collecting the oil product. We also have containment booms between Tucker Bayou and Harris Ship Channel. We also have booms down around the battleship area, and then there's some marshy areas and sensitive areas that we're protecting. So that's all being addressed. as far as the water analysis, so EPA started taking water samples on Wednesday, and I'm hoping to get my first set of results by the end of the day today. As soon as we get those and double check that information, we'll be making that public.
There's a lot of concern about the bay and water going from the ship channel to the bay. Can you confidently reassure the public that the foods and the contaminants that are being done is going to prevent this from happening, or is there still a slight possibility?
That's one of those hypotheticals. I mean, anything is possible, and our response is doing everything we can to protect the waters as well as the public health.
If benzene is released, do you mind if I haven't had it. Sorry, I just got super excited.
Hey, we'll take your question.
Don't worry.
We'll take your question.
If benzene is released today, excuse me, because I'm having a hard time hearing back here, but if it is released today, you know, it also depends on the amounts to, basically my question is there a likely chance that there will be another shelter in place today while this process is being done?
So I'm going to jump in because I'm going to keep addressing that. Yes, there's always a possibility, but let's put everything in the context of hypotheticals. We are trying our best, and I say we as part of the whole equation of the response. We're trying our best to avoid that. I don't want any more shelters in place, but we're on a high status of preparedness in the city of Deer Park that at any point in time, again, going back to your question, any level pops up at any time, we want to double and triple check, and if there's any concern of danger, this is a collaborative effort from the county to every local level, that yes, there is a hypothetical possibility that there will be more shelters in place. But let's put that in the context.
So if one monitor states 4.3, are you waiting for a second result to state something, or do you issue the precautionary measures immediately because nothing was released today?
We all, on a collaborative effort, has some very strong steps of action plans in regards to that. In some cases, we're being very proactive and then waiting for the data later. But we've got so much now in place that when that pops up, we've got other scenarios that are almost on the minute with some very high-level monitoring stuff.
All right, so this is just wrapping up what we've been listening to this morning, the latest from ITC and EPA officials in the Deer Park area. The mayor saying that he wants everybody to keep praying for first responders. The EPA saying that the air monitoring is continuing. No significant hits after 250 locations were looked at. The only 3 detections of benzene, according to the EPA. ITC says they're trying to remove 20,000 barrels of product, but they're also still putting foam on that product, and there's a possibility of more releasing of vapors. That is possible. The EPA is doing water samples, and they might be getting some results today on some water samples they did on Wednesday. That's the latest from ITC. You can continue to watch this on our khou.com and on our mobile app. And at noon, we will have a special webcast at khou.com. So tune in for that. Till then, I'm Ron Trevino.
That is preventing these barriers of releases. Any scenario that disrupts that thing is going to cause potential scenarios of release.
Yeah, I have not personally verified the data. You know, around the incident area, you know, you have layered monitoring that's going on. You have monitoring around the incident area where we're doing our remediation efforts, and then you have a tiered system of monitoring from the various agencies. So within the incident area, around the perimeter, we do continuous monitoring, ITC and a third-party contractor, to ensure that the responders and the people working the incident are in the proper PPE and we keep them safe. And then you have your next tier air monitoring, which to my knowledge has not picked up any readings. The chances of a reading inside of the incident area or right adjacent to the incident area are likely because, as the mayor referred to, anything that upsets the foam layer can lead to emissions of material. So wind speed, wind shift, agitation, anything. So I have not confirmed the 4.3 number.
So let me answer that from my perspective. So again, I'm the mayor out here and I live out here. So you got the.
Do you guys rely on for these readings as the city of Deer Park?
So just to be honest with you, I don't want to rely on any one particular source. Does that make sense? When I got to make a decision, that impacts the community, do you want to depend upon one source that it is the accurate scenario? I want as much available data. That's why I've all but asked and demanded that we have as much monitoring going on here, so we're double and triply checking. So in this instant, we were notified right away, which in any level. So from the Deer Park City's perspective, you've got scenarios, which is what occurring, which we would refer to as inside the fence, and we want to know, because if it gets outside the fence, that's in my community. So something occurred that popped up. Okay, so we're still trying to mark that, but there was no monitoring from my perspective on the city of Deer Park that confirmed it got out. City of LaPorte was put on notice, we were put on notice, and we were ready to respond at any moment. But as soon as it came up, it disappeared to the point that we couldn't verify it within such a short amount of time that it went away. But to answer your question, yes. So, I mean, you saw the dot. That's why we're doing this, to make sure you understand as we are, this is what we're looking at.
We reached out to ITC regarding the exposure or possible exposure of benzene at 438, and their response was that they were unaware of such a release. So what data are you getting that they're not getting that puts you ahead of what they're seeing?
Because I have monitoring that's going on that's independently, that I'm not necessarily having to call them to ask them, because I know what's going on and I'm verifying it with them and their numbers. So we got sources going in multiple directions, where in some cases, hey, I'm saying this is what we're getting, what are you getting? In some cases, it's industry partners. Yesterday during the event, we were talking with all of our industry partners. Shell Deer Park, which is right there at our city line, we were asking them, what readings are you getting? We were getting double and triple verification of all this at all time.
And Alex, have you been able to pinpoint the percentage of benzene in each of the tanks in the pie gas, the percentage of actual benzene?
Brent, do you know that?
Pyrolysis gasoline in general can run anywhere from 20% to about 45% benzene.
Do you have a specific number regarding these tanks on the amount of benzene that was there?
I don't have a specific for each tank, especially right now with all the work that's been done and the water that's been added in the foam, so it would be very difficult to give you an exact percentage.
Okay, hang on. Let's be fair, because the process was set up to go from here all the way around, and so I, as an elected official, we're going backwards now. Let's make sure we finish this circle. And the last time I was here, is there anybody else over here? That's good. So we finish this back, and we're bouncing back around.
Wait, he has a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Could I ask Mr. Adams a question? The process that's going on now to cool the tank and put the foam layer on it, I have two questions about it. One, does wind or any other climate factor affect your expectations of how the foam will be affected? And can you speak generally to what are the ongoing dangers? You explained this a little bit, but I was hoping you could speak in more detail as to what are the potential dangers of vapor releases as this cooling process is taking place?
So the weather can impact the emissions and the foam suppressant.
What are you expecting today?
I'm hoping that it's going to stay intact and we're not going to have them.
So can I add in the context? No, don't leave. You're the expert. Again, you're asked that in a hypothetical scenario, that it's okay to ask that, but they're working in a very strong preventative measure, because I'm asking the same type of questions. But let's control this context of hypotheticals that may or may not occur, and we're doing what we can based on what we know to prevent these kind of hypothetical scenarios. Is that fair to answer?
That's exactly what I'm
Okay,
asking, yes.
all right.
What was the second question?
As this process is going on, there's the threat of vapors being released. Can you talk about how that, again, hypothetically might happen, and sort of what's the risk? What's the worst case scenario?
If there's emissions, they're going to come up off the tank, off of the operational area, and then wherever the wind blows it, it's going to go that direction. It's, wind speed's going to be a factor. We have ITC and EPA, we all have air monitoring between the incident and the downwind community, as well as in the community. So we'll be getting detections and making notifications to the stakeholders in Unified Command. As soon as we start seeing that coming off, we'll know that and we'll communicate that to the Unified Command.
Okay. So again, remember we're talking hypotheticals. So there's no scenario outside of this perimeter that you are never exposed to benzene. On a daily basis, out in the community, in every aspect of what you do, you're already being exposed to some level of benzene.
Well, and I guess about the weather, I mean, based on today's weather, based on the other factors you have, what is your expectation of that possibly happening?
Okay, so again, as the mayor, I'm going to speak in regards to public safety, which is part of why I'm here today. I'm just as concerned as any scenario of the question you're going to ask. The question was asked earlier about evacuating. We have not in any scenario reached the level where no one across the board has even remotely got close to saying, you know what, we're so concerned that we're going to evacuate. We haven't reached that. Everything to some extent is being minimized to the best of our ability to eliminate the risk at all scenarios. But there is some scenarios of risk in the context of what they need to do to remove this product, which is my main concern. The risk that continues right now is that that product is in place, and if that foam gets disturbed in any aspect, which they're standing ready to put more on at any moment, we need to get rid of that product and get it out of that environment because it's a bad environment.
Just a quick one moving forward. We've been blessed with great weather. There's an expectation this weekend of some rain. I don't think storms or anything heavy. Does that impact, knocking that foam down, or what effect would that have, or does it have?
So the rain does have the potential to impact the foam, but we are readily and prepared to add additional foam to maintain a solid foam layer across the tanks and the tank containment area.
When does the pumping start?
The pumping is actually starting now.
Okay.
We actually did pump some material yesterday, but because of the variables and the complexity of the situation, it wasn't as successful as we liked, but we are starting to pump the material now.
When do you hope it ends?
Soon.
Very soon. Yeah. The estimated timeline is 8 to 12 hours for the pumping.
When did it start then?
Probably within the last half hour.
It started yesterday, no?
We started yesterday. We couldn't keep it going. I don't want to make it too technical, but we kept losing prime on the pump.
We want you to be very technical.
Yeah. We
I'm
kept
asking
losing
the
prime
same
on the
questions.
pump.
From my perspective, they can't do it soon enough.
Yeah.
Sorry to jump in.
And I agree, Mr. Mayor. Because of the complexity of the work area, we were kind of confined to setting up our pumping apparatus a way that's not ideal, and it was unsuccessful yesterday.
You guys talk about practical measures, and Mary,
Yeah.
kind of mentioned.
Wait now. Well, let's be fair because we're back over here
Yes.
at this point. So let's get to this point and come back around.
Tomorrow there'll be a town hall meeting at 2 p.m. here in Deer Park. I know there's two lawyers from the city of Houston, but that grew up here in Deer Park.
So
I wanted to know if, Mayor, you're going to be attending EPA and ITC officials because I think they're going to be talking with business owners, the community, and everything. So I'm curious, are you all going to be doing that?
So from the city's perspective, we have not organized nor called a town hall meeting. We can't control what community perspectives of activists are going to be going on. As long as this event's going on, my full 100% attention is going to be supporting this process to get it to an end because it can't end fast enough from my perspective. So no, I'm not going to be there.
Are you all going to be there tomorrow?
I doubt it because when we're done, the reason these guys over here try to get it done so they can go back in there and do their job. So they're most probably not going to be there.
You guys mentioned, well, you don't like to mention these hypothetical situations, but for the community, those are the most concerning situations. And you kind of compared it to getting in a car and the assumption of risk of getting into a car accident. But do you really think that compares to the assumption of risk of possibly breathing in benzene? If you guys know that there's a hypothetical situation or potential for the benzene to leak from the tank again, why not keep the shelter in place, lift, in place until these tanks are empty?
So there's standards on a federal level in regards to certain aspects of exposure and what it does to you.
Right.
But we're exposed to that all the time. Our standards here in this county region that is agreed upon and supported by all of us are much lower than that. Public safety is number one. But really, do you want us to call a shelter in place based on the hypothetical of something that might not happen?
Why was there shelter in place put into effect yesterday morning when there was those elevated levels detected?
Because there was a release yesterday and benzene was everywhere.
Right.
And
So
we
are
verified
waiting
that
for a release to put a shelter in place,
pretty much.
Okay.
What about the people that are working with these chemicals? What specific precautions are they taking?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the personal protective equipment for each employee is changed and dictated based on the IH data that we get in the work zone and around the work zone.
What does that look like though? Like what year is that? Are they at higher risk working with those?
So they're currently in fresh air.
Explain what fresh air means.
Yeah, fresh air mask, so either an air tank, SCBA, or supplied air from an air bottle through a hose to a mask.
And once the tank that we're talking about, 80-7, has all the product removed, is there anything left on the farm as far as chemicals go?
80-7 is not the only tank in that tank farm that contain product. So our focus is to get all the product out of all the tanks and the material out of the tank farm into a contained vessel.
How much product is left in total?
It's hard to say, but between 80-7 and the other tanks, you're probably talking about 60,000 barrels. Now keep in mind that not all the tanks are compromised.
Just that one with 20,000 or
2,000. 20,000, 80-7. So there are tanks in the tank farm that are not compromised.
What does that mean specifically?
So they're fully containing the chemicals that are inside.
And there's no process to remove that?
There's a
No,
methodical process.
there's a
to
very
address it.
methodical and structured plan right now to get the product out of every tank in that tank farm.
And
All
how
of
long will
the
that process take?
it's hard to tell you right now, but I would hate to venture to guess, but as the mayor said, not soon enough. We want to get it done as soon as we possibly can.
Is it weeks? Is it
I'm
days?
sorry, we've got some other questions over here, so if we said one question at a time, hold on.
The product that I guess we would consider contaminated in the foam and water and all that stuff, where does that stuff go? Does it get like permanently? What happens to that?
You've seen the pictures, right? Have you seen the pictures? You've seen the TV. It's in a containment. It's all right. It's all right there. But I just want to make sure you understand, because you're asking a question in regards to stuff that's already being put out.
You asked if she saw the TV.
It's self-contained. It's self-contained.
Answer the question.
All the material in the tanks and in the tank farm is going to be put into a properly contained vessel, and then we're going to work with our agency partners to determine the best path to get rid of the material, most likely through a disposal.
That's what I was asking. I have pictures of that, right?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
exactly.
Any final
Any
questions?
more questions?
Yeah. What's the product that's outside of 80-7 that's part of the 60,000 barrels?
There are other pie gas tanks, and then there are other naphtha tanks.
Okay. In those contain benzene in some form?
In some percentage, most of those contain benzene.
Alice, are we going to hear from the CEO as well at some point? Is the CEO planning on also addressing this?
I believe the CEO is right now very involved in everything that we're doing. And I do believe that at some point in time we'll be able to free him up to be able to make some statements or at least have some quotes in a media release. We have Lucia here who can answer some questions in Spanish.
Gracias. ¿Sí? Bueno, en este momento se ha comenzado el proceso de extraer los el pie gas de los tanques donde están. Hay posibilidad de que en este proceso la espuma que está cubriendo el material se mueva un poco, cosa que también puede ocurrir, por ejemplo, con los cambios en la dirección del viento, y eso podría provocar que hubiese algún tipo de emisión. Hay mecanismos listos para entrar en acción si eso ocurriera, y pues no sé qué más decirte. El proceso avanzado desde hace más o menos una media hora y se espera que dure aproximadamente 12 horas.
¿Qué van a hacer con ese material? ¿A dónde va a parar ese?
El material va a ser puesto en contenedores especiales y va a ser depositado, va a ser tratado de la forma apropiada con materiales de este tipo.
Recuérdame por favor en qué momento los niveles se consideran peligrosos y se toman medidas como un shelter in place.
Bueno, depende. Hay ciertos niveles. What's the level to consider a shelter in place?
I can't say that again.
The level to consider a shelter in place.
When it exceeds the one, I believe, ppm.
Okay.
Correct? Did I say that correct? Yes. Okay.
Thank you. la condición debe registrar o la medición debe registrar una partícula por millar para que se establezca un aviso de resguardo.
El agua, el tema del canal de navegación y todo eso que ha llegado hasta allá, que hay de nuevo sobre las pruebas.
Lo que puedo decirte es que las pruebas del monitoreo del agua se hacen constantemente y que de haber cualquier situación, cualquier medición que pudiera representar algún tipo de riesgo, se informará a la población de inmediato, por supuesto, y se trabaja en conjunto con las autoridades y todas las agencias correspondientes para enfrentar esta situación del agua.
En este momento, ¿cuál sería la recomendación que hacen a la población en general, especialmente la que vive en los alrededores, que es la que está más preocupada o inquieta?
Pues la recomendación, I think the best thing to do is to pay attention to the websites and to the alerts. Creo que
What did he ask?
that, I mean, what will be the consideration to say we need to establish a shelter in place? What is the minimum reading to consider that?
The minimum is 1 point ppm.
Una partícula por millar para poder establecer el aviso de resguardo, pero como les mencioné yo ayer, es muy importante que estén atentos a la página de la ciudad donde vives, en este caso de Deer Park City. Las autoridades de esta ciudad están trabajando en conjunto con la empresa para estar alertas, bien informadas, en sintonía y establecer los avisos de resguardo para cuando sea necesario y consultar las páginas de cada una de las ciudades, por supuesto.
De forma concreta, aire y agua está todo.
Hasta ahora, agua y aire, no hay nada que nos indique que haya alguna clase de peligro. Water and air, there's not a problem, nothing that can indicate that there's a problem at the moment.
That is correct.
No hay ningún problema, dijo el alcalde y la portavoz de la compañía también, no hay nada que en este momento indique que la calidad del agua o la calidad del aire represente algún peligro para la población.
Señora, corrígeme si me equivoco, nos dice que el nivel seguro es de una partícula por millón, pero entendí al principio de la rueda de prensa que decía que la última medición estaba entre 1.5 y 1.2.
Eso fue ayer, pero las mediciones en este momento no te arrojan la necesidad de establecer un aviso de resguardo, que sería más de una partícula por millar. No existe eso ahora.
¿Cuándo esperan los resultados del agua?
When can we expect the results for the water analysis?
Do you know when water analysis is
I think Adam from the EPA said he would like to have it by the end of the day. The water
La Agencia de Protección Ambiental está intentando tenerlo para finales del día de hoy, así que esperamos poder informar los resultados a la brevedad posible.
Thank y'all. We appreciate